What's happening, y'all? How's it going? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. It's just past 9:30. My apologies. A few minutes later than expected. I appreciate you guys getting involved early in the chat. I see you. I feel you guys. Appreciate you. Don't know Grits up in the house. Trim, what up, Doe? How we doing, fellas? Appreciate you guys. Big M53, I see you. Brad needs to be busy this offseason. We're going to talk about it today, man. We're going to talk about it. We're going to hit on all of it. Appreciate you guys. Make sure to slap that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. We are live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, Facebook and YouTube. Looks like we're having a little bit of trouble broadcasting to the 313 Villain Squad today, so I don't see it there, but it is on Johnny Gaz Sports on Facebook, Johnny Gaz Sports on YouTube. And again, I appreciate you guys for joining me live. Thank you so much. We'll have a ton of fun topics to get into today. A ton of good stuff. We got the U.S. men's and women's hockey teams winning gold. Pistons back in action. Red Wings starting back up after the Olympic hockey break. And we have the Lions off season in full swing. And that is our main topic for today. We're going to talk about the coaching staff, some of the latest Detroit Lions news and notes. Everything that you need to know from this past weekend and week will be right here for you on Johnny Gaz Live. Thank you so much for joining today. Hope everybody's week's going well. Hope everyone had a great weekend, a good Monday, and a good Tuesday, and a good start to the week. Should be a great week ahead. Little news and notes for this Thursday. We're going to have a special guest. At Don't Know Grit will be coming back to us to bring his expertise into the Lions' upcoming draft strategy. We're going to get heavy into that on Thursday. So if you're into drafting and everything that's happening with the Lions in their offseason, players that they can add, set up this roster for a Super Bowl run in 2026, we're going to get into all of that with At Don't Know Grit on Thursday. So definitely come back and see us this week, Thursday. But I'm glad you guys are here today. It is a Jumpin' Tuesday. A lot of stuff going on in the Detroit sports world. We're going to get into all of it. USA Gold, that's right, Trim. Let's start right there. I think let's kick it off right there. A lot of us woke up Sunday morning knowing that there was a hockey game. Obviously, when the U.S. plays Canada in a gold medal finisher to an Olympic tournament, it's going to get some eyeballs. But I thought this Sunday was special. We know what happened. I won't recap the game or go through it line by line with you. If you guys watched what happened on Sunday, you know what I'm talking about. Jack Hughes in overtime, a minute 41 in overtime, wins it for the U.S. after a historic all-time goalie performance by Connor Hellebuck. And the USA men's hockey team ends up beating the Canadians after really being controlled that entire game. I mean, the roster that Canada brought to this this Olympic tournament was just ridiculous. Hockey gods all over the place. And in essence, Canada really controlled that game after the first goal. After the Matt Boldy goal, really Canada controlled the pace of that game the rest of the way. And thankfully, in a 3-on-3 overtime, the U.S. was the more opportunistic team, the more team-like team, if I can say it like that, and ended up finishing this one, winning the gold for the first time since the 1980 Miracle on Ice when the U.S. beat the Russians. And that, to me, is what made this so special. 46 years of time had passed since the U.S. men's hockey team had won gold. And you're compiling the good vibes of the whole week of Olympic hockey because the U.S. women's team had also just won gold against the Canadian team. So it was just piling on good vibes. And Sunday just capped it off with a gold medal. Larkin, gold medalist, soon Stanley Cup champion. Absolutely, Trim. That's what we hope for. As the Red Wings start to kick it back off, all these players now getting back to their teams now. I guess the U.S. Olympic team got held up in Miami. Their plane got held up in Miami because of the storms. I'm sure they were not upset at that. There was a lot of video, a lot of good footage coming out of there. You got to see Dylan Larkin kind of show his fun side with a lot of interviews. It sheds a great light on U.S. hockey, hockey in general, the next generation of hockey players coming up in America. It's a great example, and I thought it was a lot of fun on Sunday. I hope you guys had fun watching it. Let me know if you did. Hit me up in the chat. What did you think of the gold medal game? What did you take out of that? Because you have a lot of national pundits, even local sports media members telling you that you shouldn't feel the way you feel about a U.S. Olympic gold medal, that you shouldn't feel special about feeling patriotic on a day where the United States beat Canada in hockey or hadn't won a gold medal in 46 years. We were being told that we're stupid for feeling that way. I'm here to tell you it wasn't stupid. I thought it was incredible. I thought it was a great moment. I was proud that day. I was proud on Sunday. I was proud to watch the festivities. I was proud to hear the players speak. I think the thing that capped it off after Jack Hughes' goal, I think Johnny Gaudreau back-checked McKinnon. That's fantastic. The ghost of Johnny Gaudreau came and got him. I think he might have. Something was special. Something happened that day to that team, and they were everything that you want embodying a U.S. Olympic hockey team. And it was great to get behind it. It was great to feel like the country was behind them. That group think is fantastic when you're all behind each other and you all have a common goal and a common bond. And I love that. I thought it was an awesome game. I thought the spirit behind it was great. Jack Hughes said it perfectly after the game. Quote, he says, "I love the USA. I love my teammates. I'm so proud to be an American today." And I think a lot of us felt that same way. And I thought it was really cool for them to carry Johnny Gaudreau's jersey after the fact, for them to pay homage to him and his family, to have them come out for the Olympics. It was really cool. A lot of great vibes. So a fantastic end to the weekend on Sunday. So I thought that was really cool. And of course, now, after the fact, and maybe even a bigger story, because we all love to create controversy here in America, even after good vibes, the U.S. women have decided to decline their opportunity to go to the White House and meet President Trump and go through the process that all Olympic champions and all, titles in the U.S. sports, they get to go to the White House and spend some time with the president. Well, the U.S. women's team decided to decline. On the other side, the U.S. men's hockey team is going to take that opportunity, and now there's all the backlash for should they, shouldn't they, how they handled the interaction. I guess the FBI head was in the locker room after the game. They had a phone call with President Trump after the game. A lot of people taking offense to that. And I know some of the verbiage maybe within that phone call wasn't great, but what else do you expect? And the point is, I don't know that we should be sitting here blaming our hockey players for doing the thing that almost every single championship winning team or gold medalist or, important sports figure in our history has gone to the White House and shook the hands with the president. Whether you agree or don't agree with who the president is or their stances, I don't think any of that really matters in this case. I think it's just incredible to me that people want to just create controversy out of nothing, and certainly create controversy out of what should just be a great feeling, a great American patriotic, proud moment, and it has to now be turned into some kind of divisive argument, and that's the stinky part about maybe social media and the news in general, is that it's just anything could be turned into a negative, and it seemed like it kind of did in this case. But I'm here to tell you, I'm going to continue to celebrate it. I thought it was a great Sunday. It was a fantastic game, one of the best games of hockey I've ever sat down and watched from start to finish. It's rare that outside of Red Wing hockey, that I really get to sit down and watch great hockey, and that's exactly what that was. And I enjoyed it Sunday. I hope you guys did too. So that will end our Olympic discussion. Obviously, I wanted to bring a little flair and vibe to the U.S. men's hockey team. I just thought it was such a great moment. Connor Hellebuyck deserves a huge shout out. 41 of 42. Jack Hughes, an American hero. Go USA. Let's change topics as we do here at Johnny Gaz Sports. Let's take it back to our Detroit sports team and go around the D. All right, let's go around the D. I think the biggest news of the day, and we got a few things to go through, but one of the later news things of the day was an announcement made by the Lions left tackle Taylor Decker, who now seems to be returning to the Lions in 2026. Let me share my screen here if I can. Let's share some screenage. I apologize. I got a little sniffles here going on. A little sniffles today, guys. Let's bring this up. Kind of another cryptic message from a Lions player here today, but this one coming from left tackle Taylor Decker. And we know that the news has been, or the word on the street has been, will he or will he not retire? Could the Lions even consider cutting him? Both Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes spoke at the NFL Combine today. And before this announcement was made, or this post was made by Taylor Decker, a lot of the word coming from Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes was that there was still a lot of decisions to be made, and they were given Taylor Decker time. He had earned it, and they were going to give him time, but certainly have their eyes on what they need to do at tackle, regardless of his decision. Well, now we know for sure, based on these kind of posts, and it's now been confirmed that Taylor Decker will return in 2026. So you guys got to let me know, is this good news for the Lions? And if so, why is this good news for the Lions? I'd love to hear from you guys. I think it is good news in a sense of the timing. I think this couldn't wait any longer, in my opinion. We know what happened last year with the Frank Ragnow retirement. And you could make an argument whether or not that caught the Lions off guard. Well, I think they did not want to end up in a situation where Taylor Decker's decision was going to hinder them from making either a free agent decision or what they were going to do in the draft for the offensive line. We know that's maybe their biggest point of concern. So to have now the knowledge that Taylor Decker is absolutely returning, does this change the Lions' strategy? Truly, their draft strategy? Because that's really now the biggest question. Because without Taylor Decker, you certainly had a huge hole at tackle. You still have a huge hole at center in deciding what you're going to do at that position. So now that you know that Taylor Decker is returning, how does that change the ultimate strategy? Does that make going for a offensive lineman in free agency not as much of a need? Could they now look back to the draft and filling with the best tackle available, now just keeping that tackle in the back burner, so you know that if Taylor Decker then ultimately retires or doesn't make it through the season, because we know he's had an injury history, you then have something to back him up? And really, does it just change the strategy for the Lions? And that's the ultimate question I want to hear from you guys in chat. Don't Know says, yes, the tackles in this draft are not day one starters. After maybe the first two, getting a guy a redshirt year is a good thing. So maybe that's the way to go. So it gives them that one extra year that I think they were hoping to get out of Ragnow, but they just didn't get that. Trim says, sign a vet center and a left tackle. And that's really the thing. I don't know that you could really mess with your offensive line in the sense of plugging in young players this year. So knowing you have Taylor Decker, at least at the beginning of the season, to start this process of rebuilding or revamping, let's say, your offensive line, I think, is a good start. You know, you got Penei Sewell on the other side. That's your surefire all-pro. You don't have to worry about that. Now you don't have to shift things around with your tackles either. So that's another good thing. So truly the sole focus is back to the interior. I think that's the benefit of Taylor Decker returning more than anything else, is it shifts focus back to really the center position, or how you want to shift the guards around to assist the center position. So to me, that's the best benefit. Of course, Taylor Decker being the veteran presence he is. And I still think he has a good year in front of him if he's able to remain healthy. So this is a good sign for the Lions. I think the timing makes the most sense and gives the organization an opportunity now to make the right move to move this offensive line forward. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think? Let me know in the chat. Where do the Lions go from here? Big M says agreed. Sign a free agent center. I think that's really a lot of the talk has been that. Linderbaum, obviously the big prize free agent center, but we now know, I think the word is that the Ravens want to give him a market-busting offer, which means probably $20+ million a year. And I just don't think the Lions are in the market for that high price of a center. Considering the other players, you're probably going to have to re-sign or restructure. So that just, I think, is out of the question. McGovern might also be out of the question with his price point because now you're resetting this market. So a free agent center doesn't seem as realistic now, but there's still guys out there. There's still going to be opportunities for that. And that's part of what we're going to get into on Thursday with Don't Know Grit. So I'm definitely looking forward to that conversation. Come back and see us on Thursday. We'll dive heavy into that side of things. If anybody's watching through Facebook, through my Facebook channel, let me know if I'm having any issues. I'm not sure if something's going on the Facebook Live side right now, but it seems to be acting up. So I'm just curious if anybody's watching through Facebook, hit me up in the chat on that. I just want to make sure things are working okay. If I got to mix some things up on my end, it seems okay, but it looks a little slow. So again, I don't know if it's something on Facebook or something on my end. Let me know what you see. Either way, we're going to move forward here. So yeah, that was big news with Taylor Decker's now confirmed return. I think that kind of sets the stage for now what the Lions can do heading forward in this offseason. And again, with the combine now opening up, you had Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell speak today to the media. And I won't go too far into this because, again, a lot of this right now is coach speak. It's a lot of rehashing, a lot of the same questions that were asked at the end of your press conference. There's a lot of emphasis put into the David Montgomery situation, and I will say it again, and as much slack as I took for assuming some things on Brad Holmes' first indication of David Montgomery, well, he really said the same thing again, where they would like to have him back, but it seems like the true commitment from David's side might not be there yet. And it's not necessarily that David Montgomery doesn't want to return either, but I think he wants more of a share of the carries. And I don't know that the Lions are willing to go there with him anymore. And they're certainly not willing to pay him more money. So in that case, it's up to David Montgomery to decide whether he's okay with the limited role that he had. He was a little injured last year, and we know what Gibbs gives this offense when he's humming. So it really needs to come down to David Montgomery either sacrificing and being okay with that workload, or he's got to work with the organization and say, look, trade me somewhere where I'm more valued, where you might get something in return that's worth it. The trade proposal I saw was a 5th-round pick from the Kansas City Chiefs for David Montgomery, and I would not take that. I don't think it's worth giving him up for a 5th-round pick. I'd entertain it with a 4th, but with a 5th-round pick, I'd say hang on to David Montgomery. He's definitely more valuable to you. A lot of people with the free agent center idea, I think a lot of people are jumping on board with that, and I understand. I'm with you. I want to fill it with a guy with experience. I don't think it helps this year in 2026 for the Lions to go, let's say, draft a center or draft another guard and shift Tate Ratledge over to center. I think you're kind of in the same boat where you're then mixing up your interior too much to be effective. Don't know says there are plenty of tier 2 centers out there, in my opinion. I think we should go through a couple of those options on Thursday, my man. Trim says, I want all defenses in the draft. I do too. I really want to go defense heavy. That's kind of why I hope that they do resolve their offensive line through free agency, because then you can turn to the defensive line in the draft. And I'm with you. And it sounds like not only defensive line, but defensive backfield. You got tight ends to worry about. There's a lot of different positions. I'm sorry, guys. I got the sniffle. I'm sniffing right into this thing. My apologies. Excuse me. Pardon me, guys. I've been fighting. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a cold. I was like a light flu or something. I'm not complaining. It's just I got nasal drip. I got crap going on we don't want to hear about. Not what we got to talk about that here today, but it is what it is. Big M says, Brad needs to work those contracts, have some flexibility to sign our core players back, Campbell, Gibbs, Laporta. I mean, that's the word on the street is that's what they want to do. They want to re-sign all of those guys. You can make an argument whether they should re-sign all of those guys, especially in Gibbs and Laporta's situations. And again, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail on Thursday. But number one, they have to restructure. I think more than anything, Big M, they need to restructure some contracts to be able to have some more flexibility with what they do now and with those pending signs. Yeah, and that's the thing. Laporta's got to come back healthy. That back injury is a big question mark. And in the Petsing offense, and I think what he's going to want to do, they got to have effective tight ends. Obviously, Laporta being the feature tight end in the offense, that's a huge question mark. Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the other big pieces of news coming out of Lionstown today is that the NFL announced most of their overseas games, which does now include the Detroit Lions. The Lions will host a game in Munich, Germany, which is kind of cool because obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown and his connection there. It'll be part of the NFL's international series and will take place at the FC Bayern Munich Stadium in Munich, Germany. The exact date, kickoff time, and opponent have yet to be announced. That's expected when the full NFL schedule drops later this spring. Now, why does it matter? I mean, I think there's a few reasons. Number one, Detroit's never been involved in this before, so having that international game is something new for the Lions organization. No, I'm mistaken. My apologies. They did play an international game. So let's start that again. It's been a long time. Let's put it that way. It's been over 10 years since the Lions have played a game overseas. In 2015, they did play in London. So this marks their return back to the global stage. And obviously the organization, a lot of things have shifted from where the Lions were in 2015 to where they are in 2026. And obviously with the personal connection with wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, he actually has German roots with his mom. He speaks German. He's come out and said that playing in Germany has been a dream of his, so it kind of fulfills that. And I think the Lions will have a lot of support in Munich, Germany, so that should be a fantastic atmosphere. And apparently Detroit has invested in German youth football camps. They've done overseas programs before, watch parties, cultural collaborations, marketing rights in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So Detroit obviously is trying to grow its brand, as this is now a big part of that as they get an international game in 2026. A big part of this will be, who do they face? At what point of the season does this occur? How does this affect the strategy of the season? We know the Lions will be playing a last place schedule. So this then affects the travel. And again, depending on who they play overseas, that changes the competitiveness of that particular game. So you could make an argument that in essence, it could be a deterrent for the Lions with travel schedules, and depending on who the game is sandwiched around, who do you play before, the week before, who do you play the week after? So again, there's a lot of ups and downs to this. I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you think the Lions playing a game in Germany in 2026 is a positive thing? Do you look at this as, a positive for the Lions organization? Do you look at it as a positive for the Lions season? Can you separate the two? And is there a difference? Yeah, in the Sun God's backyard. I mean, he's got to feel good about that. A social media post from him today, just thanking the Lions organization and everybody for making this happen. He was actually speaking in German, so it's a good look. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I'm surprised the Lions haven't had an international game up to this point, especially with how popular they've been the last several years. So it was about time. It makes sense, and the location obviously is perfect. I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me. Sniffles and sneezes. So yeah, I thought that was a cool story. I think it'll be cool. Well, obviously, I'll keep you updated here on the channel as we get word on more details for how and when that will take place. Yeah, it's a good point. Don't know. Grady says it's not good for the season. That travel probably sucks a lot, but for the brand, fantastic. Absolutely. That international presence is going to be huge. So that I think is a positive. On a negative side, we did also get some updates on Kirby Joseph. And I think, to me, it's not great news. Dan Campbell came out and kind of talked about his injury and what the recovery was looking like. Obviously wiped out most of his 2025 season there. So what he said was that they're slowly working him back. But there's no clear timetable. There's not real confidence in that he'll be back fully ready before 2026. And I would sit here very confidently and say he's not going to be fully ready at the start of the season. And really, it seems like they're just managing this injury at this point rather than healing it or looking at a long-term solution. And that's the scary part. It's really about, can he get enough strength in that knee, stability before making any true decisions on what is the next best step. And the scary part is the next best step might not be playing football. I think it's discouraging when you consider how dominant Joseph was when he was healthy, how dominant him in the combination with Brian Branch was when they were healthy. And the truth is they may most likely will be without both of those players to begin the season. And it really affects what they're going to do. Not only in the offseason here, but what they truly do with their defense in 2026, because it sounds like they're going to have to shift in the safety room and most likely add more players. Because it's not just if he'll be back at full speed, it's if Kirby Joseph will be back at all. So that's kind of scary. I'll be honest with you. That's not great news. It's kind of what we expected to a certain extent. Don't know says, what if I told you there was a Kirby type safety that could very well be available in round 4? Foreshadowing for Thursday? Like that a lot, buddy. And let me tell you, your preparation is second to none, and we're going to prove that to everybody here on Thursday. Yeah, I'm worried, Trim. I'm worried about them both. I'm worried about our safety group. I'm worried about the defense. Dan Campbell was talking a little bit today about he's spent a lot more time with the defensive core coaching staff compared to the offense, because obviously they were still making up what the coaching staff was going to look like. And that statement right there brings us into our main topic of the day. The main topic of the day focuses around the Lions coaching staff. It was officially announced this week, really on Monday. And although there were no big sweeping changes, and we've been on the channel and talked about what the additions have been over this offseason so far. So Dan Campbell, of course, coming back as a head coach in 2026. Drew Petzing comes in as the new offensive coordinator, replacing last year's offensive coordinator situation. Mike Kafka officially joins as pass game coordinator, adding another voice to the offensive room. Kelvin Shepard is your defensive coordinator. And that side of the ball mainly is intact. Some other internal promotions and moves. Steve Oliver shifting roles. Dan Skipper joining the offense. And the offensive line assistant as a retired player. So Campbell's keeping the core, but he shook things up where they had to, and obviously that's the offense. So the biggest one is the Petzing hire. And again, we spent a lot of time on it. Is it the right fit? Is it not the right fit? I think as this has sort of sat with us and marinated, it's become a better feeling over time. We've heard Drew Petzing speak. We've heard him talk about Jared Goff, the quarterback, the current offensive situation, what his plans might be with the offense. We've heard players come out. We now have heard former coaches. Ben Johnson has come out and supported the hire of Drew Petzing for Detroit, saying that that should be a great situation for everybody there. So you're starting to sort of see this come together, but we won't know until we hit the field, because the truth is we thought very similarly to the situation last year and the familiarity with John Morton and the situation there, but we know how that ended up. And I can confidently sit here and say that Drew Petzing was not the guy on my radar for the Lions at offensive coordinator. That was not the guy I would have said they should hire, but it is who they did hire. And I think fans have been critical because Petzing time in Arizona was uneven at best. Never really lit up the stat sheet like some other coordinators around the league, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's not going to work here. And he did some good things in Arizona, and we hit on a lot of that. And the opportunity to work with the Lions' offensive talent will supersede anything he ever had in Arizona. So the opportunity is there. And the question ultimately, is this a smart offensive reset? Or is this just another gamble with our head coach, Dan Campbell, doubling down on hope versus proven results? And that's the whole point of today's live is, do we trust Dan Campbell? Rod Wood, the president, retired just recently. And I'm not going to get into the reasons why or what that could mean or who the new hire will be. But I think what that means is that a lot of the day-to-day, a lot of the roster, the winning and losing decisions are being made by Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, your head coach. And for a few seasons in a row now, Lions fans have to trust that this organization is making the right decisions to move this team towards its first Super Bowl victory. And it's okay to question the offensive hire of Drew Petzing based on what happened the previous year. And we are again putting our faith into Brad Holmes and especially Dan Campbell, who have now told us that this is the right hire. This is the guy that they wanted, and it has to pay off. Because the constant in this room is now always Dan Campbell. Since 2021, when he took over, through the good and the bad, he's the architect. The vision that those guys seem to have, we talked about with Michigan's new pod on the show on Thursday, and shout out to him. Make sure to go check him out on TikTok. It was a great guest, fantastic, great to have him on the show. But we really dived into the nitty-gritty of where the problems lie, and he had mentioned Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell just having sort of a brain trust that doesn't move outside of those two gentlemen. And what comes along with that isn't flashy. It's not impulsive. It doesn't grab headlines. Won't chase names. That's very clear. They go out and get their guys. And in this case, they found the coordinator that they think will blend with this roster, backed with a plan with multiple experienced voices. You got Petzing, you got Kafka as a combination there rather than maybe one mind. And ideally, they're keeping their defensive stability intact. That was the strategy this offseason, and it either is going to pay off, or I think we're heading towards another year of mediocrity. Coaching, to me, it makes the ultimate difference. We saw it in this year's playoffs, in the Super Bowl, with two teams that maybe weren't the most talented in the NFL, but were led there through their coaching, through the schemes, and it paid off for both of those teams, but especially the Seattle Seahawks. So the question, you guys, ultimately in the chat, can we trust Dan Campbell? Let's be honest. If you're trusting consistency, identity, culture, staff continuity, I mean, that's his bread and butter. There's no doubt about it. That's Dan Campbell. If you measure trust by offensive innovation, elite play calling pedigree, getting the guy, that's where the skeptics kind of get involved and start to scratch their heads. I mean, for me, the Petzing hire initially said that Dan Campbell still wants control, but also improvement. It doesn't mean he's abandoning his system, but that's what I sort of wanted. But to me, it still keeps his hand over top of everything. And the question to me will be, Will the guys he's putting in place allow him to take his hand off of that and go back to being the CEO that I think makes him the most effective for this organization? That's what I think they really need. And like we knew with John Morton through 10 weeks of the season, I think we'll know even sooner with this Drew Petzing situation. So do you guys in chat, do you trust Dan Campbell to turn this coaching staff into a contender again? Or do you think this offensive shakeup makes 2026 a make or break year? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Drop your takes. Let me know what you're thinking. I want to hear from you guys. What's up, Lightning Days? How you doing? Says, love the skipper interview with Tim Twentyman. I have to go check that one out. I didn't see that one. I'm assuming it was at the Combine. Would you consider this an demotion for David Shaw? That's a good question. Yeah, I did notice that. I think they just like David Shaw, and he was part of the situation last year. I don't want to call it like the downfall. That seems way so harsh because that's not what it was, but it just feels like he was a big part of why. So then to reset the coaching culture, you kind of have to allow Petzing to form his team, and I don't know if David Shaw was a major part of that, but I think Dan Campbell likes him. So it goes back. That may go back to the thing that hurts this whole situation where, Dan Campbell's loyal to the point where they just won't let the guy go. So David Shaw hangs on there. I don't know. That's just my skep. That's my skep. Trim says the Lions ground game and overall offense will finish number one. It really depends on the offensive line. Now you got Taylor Decker back. What do they do with that interior? Do they go get that offensive lineman we're looking for, Trim? That'll make the difference. What's up, Robert? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Also confirms that Facebook's working okay. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate you, bud. Hit you up with a like on that one. Appreciate you. Trim says Petz was a fantastic hire, in my opinion. Look, a lot of people starting to feel that way. And the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be in the pudding. I want this to work out. I really do. He's got the makings of an offensive system that's working right now currently in the NFL. So if he can use the talent into his system. Actually, let me say that differently. If he can use the talent that he has in Detroit and form the system around that works best, I think he'll be okay. Lightning says, I listened to MCDC being interviewed live from Indy on the NFL Radio Network. Great interview. I totally trust him. I mean, the one thing I'll say about the interview, I think Dan Campbell, again, takes accountability for what happened in 2025. They're saying all the right things as far as it not being good enough. So I do like that. Let's just go with Petzing and Kafka. I don't want MCDC really on the offense. I mean, obviously he can be involved in the bigger picture idea of what they want to do, but as far as them installing game plans and executing them on game day, let's just keep to Petzing and Kafka. And I'm with you. Vegas thinks this is a bounce back year for the Lions. They set the over under at 10.5. That's a big number. I like that. I'd take the under right now. Now, people love MCDC. This isn't about hating MCDC. It's not about, because I don't want to be misinterpreted here. I love Dan Campbell. I love Motor City Dan Campbell. I want him to be here forever. And I want him to win multiple championships so we don't ever have to worry about other people questioning what he's doing here. So it's not about wanting this to fail at all. But I want to get back to the root of what Dan Campbell brought to this team. That grit throughout the organization, and it didn't stem through the offense. It stemmed through him as the CEO, allowing the offense to flourish under the direction of someone else, and same thing with the defense. And they got to reestablish those three pieces, the triumvirate. It is, Big M. That's exactly it. It is a prove-it year for this organization. This is, you don't, I mean, you can, but you don't want to go from 15-2 to 9-8 to another 9-8. You got to flip this back positive. And I mean, that doesn't mean you got to go back to 15-2 at all. But I just think you have to get yourself back in the playoffs. You got to give yourself another shot. We got to see market improvement with this roster compared to what they had last year. knowing they have these injury concerns with the safeties, they got to make moves now. They got to add players. They got to add guys. They got to fix the offensive line. They got to add dudes on defense. I mean, that's the other thing, Brent. I mean, I don't know if they were fully happy with the offense and the way it was running with the Morton-Shaw combo and the way things were going there. But again, they like David Shaw, so they kept him. They kept him. I also did not see any change in the strength and conditioning coach routine, because that has been brought up in the past as far as the Lions' current workload, how they handle the preseason, training camp, the way they hit in practices. I don't get a sense that that's going to change. As a matter of fact, based on what I'm hearing from Dan Campbell, it sounds like they want to go back to the root of what they were doing in those Hard Knocks years, which was even more hard-hitting than it is now. So my fear there is that these injury concerns don't change. I hate that this is even a topic, but the truth is we're going into another season where some of your superstar players are affected by injuries. And excuse me. Sorry, guys. It's been part of the narrative now for several seasons. And it's something that you have to break. You have to get some good luck if this team is going to make the jump to a Super Bowl. We're not seeing a change in that coaching staff as far as the actual strength and conditioning coaches. So if we're not going to get a change in the routine from the Lions, are we just going to get the same result? And that's really the fear. So is it really about luck? Or does there have to be changes made either in the coaching staff or through their routines to make sure they don't run into an injury problem this year? That's another huge question. I want to hear from you guys in the chat. Bear with me a second, guys. Sorry, guys. My apologies. It's gross. I'm sorry. Again, a little bit under the weather, but I'm powering through today for you guys because it's Tuesday. I love talking Detroit Lions with you guys. It is already a fantastically interesting offseason, Trim. I'm with you. This is a huge offseason. This could really determine the direction of the organization over the next 5 to 7 years. Is what they do with the offseason this year, how they restructure the contracts. Do they make another big re-signing of one of their guys? And how does that affect future contracts? It's such an interesting play in so many directions. And that's fair, Brent. That's maybe the ultimate argument to be made here is that MCDC has 4 to 5 winning seasons after 66 years of Lions mediocre football. I'll trust him to finish the deal. That's all we can do. I mean, that's all we can do as a fan perspective. That's all I can do. And I want it to be that way. But I think that what happens with the offense this year could dictate what happens long term. Yeah, that's it, Lighting. That's kind of where I'm at. And that's exactly what I'm getting at. Great points here. It says having MCDC back to being on that sideline to interact with all 3 phases throughout the game is critical. Having his face in a play sheet disrupted his ability to have energy as players needed. I do think it took him out of a lot of the routine things he would do on a game day Sunday, the support he could provide to other areas of the team, the other coaches. So it's a big part of that. And that's it. Heck, I mean, it says, heck, pretty much your entire secondary is coming off of injury. 3 of 4 had their season ended by injury last year. Something's got to change. You know, something has to change. I don't know what that is exactly, because you don't want the organization to lose the grit, lose the practice strategy that they bring. When you have the joint practices, you see that, you know, you see other teams try to mirror what Dan Campbell's doing. So there's something good to it, but it's also the bad side is the injuries. And it's just, there's got to be something that's got to give. No, Trim, you should expect the world. That's okay. And I think that's why I'm okay having some of these difficult conversations. I don't love taking it to the other side just because. I'm not trying just to be negative just because. I won't do that. But we should expect more. At 15-2, and then from the previous season being in the NFC Championship game, we are right there, and you should expect more. That's what this organization is telling you. They expect more. So make it happen, Make the moves to make it happen. And on Thursday, we're going to go through very heavy specifics into how the Lions can and will make that happen through the draft, through free agency. We're going to have Don't Know Grit on the show on Thursday, and we're going to dive heavy into that. Talk about somebody who's extremely knowledgeable about what the Lions should do, could do, and possibly will do to get this thing to be a winner. So come back and see us on Thursday. Me and Don't Know Grit will be live, large and in charge. Here we go. Here's a good take. Hey, Charles, how you doing, buddy? Says, I trust Dan, but not so much Brad. Brad is looking years down the road. The players want to win now. That's a really good point because the Brad Holmes factor into all of this is Brad and Dan. Are they tied at the hips so much to where they both have that strategy? And will that ultimately affect them winning now? Because I think, Charles, that's my biggest concern maybe, is that continues to be what they do. And maybe that does bring, and Brent had mentioned it earlier, winning seasons. Maybe they continue to win and they don't have losing seasons and they're sniffing the playoffs every year and you turn yourselves into the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only problem with that is the Pittsburgh Steelers at least have a history of championships and have sniffed the Super Bowl and won Super Bowls, in the relatively recent history. The Lions haven't done that. I feel like they got to get one and then play that game. I know it's easier said than done, but I just feel like that's where I'm at with this regime right now. You're feeling better, Johnny. I'm feeling better off the bottom. And hey, keep it going, Trim. You still going strong, buddy? You still going good? I hope so. We'll keep our faith and prayers with you, my man. I hope things are going well. Yeah, this is just a little sick, a little cold. Man cold. Men, they always like to. My wife, she gets me for this too, because I'll oversell a cold. But sometimes it just hits you, man. Hits you good. Brad looked exhausted in his combine interview today. I think he just knows the kind of questions he's going to get, And the Detroit media and people who get after the Lions, I mean, those guys, they try, they try. It's such a tough game to play in those interviews too. Everyone's coach speaking and nobody wants to say really anything, but they want to give enough to where the media is satisfied. It's such a game. What's up, Gavis Con? Good to see you back, brother. Appreciate it. So Decker's back. What's our top 3 draft prios? That's it. We talked about that a little earlier. It does change to me their immediate need for a tackle. Now they still have to remake the interior. So whether that be an offensive lineman in the draft, and we talked about maybe it's more smart for them to try and go get a veteran interior offensive lineman. We know Linderbaum's probably off the table, McGovern probably off the table, but there are other guys, second-tier centers available that they could go get, veterans that could maybe fill the spot now, and then maybe they still draft a tackle for the future, but maybe the immediate need at the top of the draft isn't there for a tackle. That's it. Don't know. Maybe that's it. He's been agent seeking for a week now, and it's just getting to him. Hopefully he's got a deal in the works. I wish they had mic'd up the media. I couldn't hear the questions. Well, here's what I'll say, Lightning, especially at the Combine. It's different when it's at Allen Park in the Lions facility when they can control it a little bit more, but they will give access to anybody at those Combines, man. I could send an email and probably get access to the Combine if I want and go down there and scream at coaches. It's a scream fest, and everyone's trying to get a question in, and I think that's partly why you see those guys look the way they do, because they're not familiar with a lot of the people that are there. I mean, it's great if you get to go. I'm not knocking people who have the credentials and make the trip down there, but it's, I don't know. You got a wild group at the Combines. Can I get people on board with drafting a linebacker, Anthony Hill Jr.? Hey, man, they might be in the market for a linebacker. I mean, I don't know what happens with Anzalone still. You got that kind of in the works, and he might not come back, so It also depends on the scheme they'll run defensively. What do they want to do? Shift more towards the Seattle side of things, where you're running heavy defensive backs, lessening the load on your linebackers, but we'll see. And that's it, Brent. We'll even make it to where the Lions draft. I'm hearing more and more, and again, I won't ruin anything because we're going to really talk about this with Don't Know Grit. Do they want to trade back? Is that really the biggest move? Now with Decker for sure coming back, does that give them the ability to say, all right, we'll absolutely trade back now? So it could open that option up. Looks like a stud. He does. I know you could hear the chaos of dozens of people shouting their questions before the audience mute kicked in. Yeah, it's a wild scene there. Combine's weird. Combine even, I've never been there personally, so I'm not going to sit there and pretend or act like I know. But from what I've heard from people that have been there, I've talked to folks that have been in the media sessions there. It is crazy. And the effectiveness of the Combine has gotten worse and worse over the years. It doesn't mean the same as it did 10, 15 years ago. If they trade back, I would throw a freaking party. Let's go. Let's get some more picks. Let's get that 3rd round pick back if we could. We're gonna dive into that. Don't know. Let's not give away all our secrets here today. Yeah, player interviews are good. Well, depends on who's giving them, right, Lightning? But you're right. If you can get good, solid questions and a good, detailed conversation, then absolutely. Let's flip over one more topic for the day. Let's flip over to our Pistons. I think it's important we mention the Pistons. Obviously, they are coming off of a loss to the Spurs at home at LCA just yesterday, 114-103. To San Antonio, Wembanyama, everything that comes along with that. Detroit had won 5 straight coming into this game, so it does kind of break a streak for them coming out of the All-Star break. It doesn't change as far as the contendership of the Pistons, and I don't want to make this into a bigger deal. It is one game, and the Pistons are going to have another shot at the Spurs in another week. So they'll have another chance at it. Beef Stew wasn't in the lineup, obviously. Again, does that make or break the difference? No. But to me, this one came down to shooting and three-point shooting specifically. The Spurs shot the lights out at just about 45% from three. The Pistons were under 20% and just couldn't shoot the rock when they needed it the most. Cade Cunningham was a little frustrated at times. He got into foul trouble, but he was still very effective. I think the question there is, when he is being D'd up effectively like the Spurs are able to do, who does he turn to? JD is good, but he's not really a second scorer, right? If you get into the playoffs and a defense locks you down and Cade has to give the ball up, who's ultimately going to hit a three-point shot for you when it matters the most? Duncan Robinson, Kevin Huerter obviously hasn't even really seen the floor. Tobias Harris, Karis LeVert. I mean, all guys that can get a little streaky, but they're not necessarily bona fide number two scorers. So it just reopened that conversation again in a loss like that. But the Spurs are a fantastic team, possibly the best in the NBA, the hottest right now for sure, and maybe one of the best players in the world with Wemby. So it's a difficult ask. And a loss to the Spurs in the middle of the season with where these teams are at is not a deterrent against what the Pistons are trying to do. And it doesn't mean the Pistons can't get to and win a title. But I think it tells you that they're going to need to either lock up more defensively or shoot the rock better consistently. And they're going to have to find a way to do that quickly. Overall, they shot only 37% from the field in general. So they didn't shoot the ball very good anyways, but we know the Pistons are very paint heavy. But in this one, the Spurs just shot the lights out. I mean, I think they had 33 more points worth of three-pointers than the Pistons. So sometimes you just have a night where it doesn't even out. So I think the question for you guys in chat is this a bigger problem, or is this just a loss to a good team, a good Spurs team? The other thing that we might want to mention is that Ron Holland, or was it no one Ron Holland? I'm sorry. JD had a strong game. He did 25 and 14. Holland provided some energy off the bench. Osir Thompson was limited in his minutes. There it goes. Popped into my head right there. Osir was very limited in his minutes. And from what I'm hearing, it was an argument that he got into with him and JB Bickerstaff. And rather than just play him, they decided to limit his minutes or sit him for a period of time. And when you're not playing one of your best defensive players, that's going to hurt you. So it'll be interesting to see how the Pistons react to this loss. They have a game against OKC this week. And then they're going to pick up again against the Spurs in about another week or so. So they'll get another shot at this, and they'll see what they can do. That's right, Trim. MVP. Cade Cunningham's still in the running for that, no doubt about it. He's got a good argument for MVP category. So, yeah, it was a fun game. It had a playoff atmosphere to it. It was a great watch. I was probably more invested than I should have been. Coming off the gold medal, the Pistons been rolling the Spurs. There was a lot of buildup behind the Peacock game with these two teams, and I really wanted the Pistons to win. But it's very important to remember it was still regular season. They were not full steam ahead without beef stew. And I think they're still working through what this playoff rotation will look like. So let's give JB Bickerstaff and the whole team a lot of credit. They're still in a very good position, first in the East. I think they're still best record in the NBA as far as the number of losses. So they're still in a very good position. We'll just be interested to see how they recover from this and they go play OKC. So it should be a good game this week. That's Wednesday. So that's tomorrow, 7:30. Pistons will play OKC. Obviously, the Thunder coming to LCA, and they will be without, it sounds like, SGA. So they're going to be undermanned. This will be a good opportunity for the Pistons to get a win against a quality Western Conference team that's a little bit underserviced and beatable. But OKC has proven that they can play through that. Even without SGA, they've been able to get some wins. So it should be a good game tomorrow at LCA and certainly worth the watch. The Red Wings will pick back up on Thursday as they go to Ottawa. Red Wings at 33-19-6. It will be interesting to see how they sort of pick up after the Olympic break. Do they have any momentum coming out of that with Dylan Larkin getting back into the lineup? A lot of good stuff there. I look forward to the last half of the season for the Wings, for the Pistons. Tigers are in the midst of their spring training now. They dropped one to Atlanta today, 8-1. It's kind of a common theme right now. Detroit losing big in spring training. Let's hope that's not a theme. So we'll dive into that down the road as that sort of gets closer and closer to regular season baseball. There's going to be a lot of good topics. Detroit sports is rolling. And more than anything, I appreciate that you guys are here with me to enjoy it. I appreciate the conversation, the back and forth. I really apologize, guys. I'm under the weather. I'll be honest with you. I thought I could fight through it today. I fought through it at work because I had stuff going on. Again, not to complain, but I'm in my head right now. So if I was off my game tonight, I truly apologize. I had issues going live and I couldn't even dissect it. So if I was not processing your information again, I apologize. But I'm hoping to get through this. This is still a ton of fun and I will continue to do it. And we will be back Thursday with a huge show. We're going to have a draft show, free agency show, special guest show. We're going to have @Don'tKnowGrit. Matt's going to come back and spend some time with us. We're going to have some fun talking about the Lions offseason, these specific players that you guys want and need on this roster. Matt's going to lay it out for us. He's going to tell us exactly what the Lions need to do for 2026. It's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you, Brent. Sorry to be under the weather, buddy. I owe you more, my man. I'm going to give it to you hard. I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? I just meant like through live broadcasts. You get what I'm saying? You get it. You understand. You get it. Millicent. Oh, dang it. You know what I didn't do for you all day today? Millicent, I'm sorry. You know what? I did it again. This Lightning Days 38 thing is going to throw me off. I spent this whole live thinking you were somebody else. Millicent, I apologize. That's my sickness kind of coming out in me again. I'm not thinking straight. And because of that, I'll give you one of these. We call it apology gong, Millicent. I appreciate you so much. You were here all day. Brent, you were here all day. Brent, I'm sorry I cost you through my microphone. It's just awful. Terrible stuff. I'm sorry. No, I appreciate you, Brett. You the man. Don't know you the man. All you guys that were here early, thank you so much. Millicent, always the best. Trim, always number one. Trim, I owe you big time, buddy. You're here every time I go live. You're here the whole time. You're commenting nonstop. You are truly the man, and you don't only do this for me. You do this for a lot of other people. I see you every day on Lions Talk Live, so you deserve a special shout out. Love you, bro. Big M53, I appreciate you hanging around with us today as well. It was nice to have you in the chat. It was a good time. Really good time. Good topics today. Again, we're going to have a lot of good stuff Thursday. We're going to have Lions draft talk, Lions offseason strategy, free agents with that Don't Know Grit. We'll check back in on where the Pistons and how they did with OKC on Wednesday. We'll prep for the Red Wings start of their post-Olympic break season as they prepare for Ottawa. It's going to be a lot of fun. It really is. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. But I'm going to call it right there. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your night. Tell your loved ones hello. Give them a hug for me. Or for you, don't tell them for me. They'll be like, well, why are you hugging me for some guy named Johnny? Don't do that. Don't do that. They're going to ask more questions than you really want. But no, I appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your night. Please come back and see us on Thursday. We're going to have a huge show. Be back at it at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. I need to get some rest. I'm going to go to sleep. Peace out. What is this music? What happened? I wanted this. Better. I wanted noises. I gotta go sleep.